And welcome everybody to the State of the Onion. Once again, we're here, and this week it's Luke, use the Force, which is my best impersonation of one Kanam Kenobi, one Kanam Kenobi. Can't remember his name, but it's there. It is, and of course I'm joined
Close
as
enough.
always. Who is it again?
It's Obi-Wan Kenobi, but you're close
Obi-Wan
enough.
Kenobi. Thank you. Yeah. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Use the Force, Luke. No. Use the lube, Luke. No, I can't remember exactly what the joke is, but you all get what I mean. Because, of course, these science fiction films that we've been... Hey, Sterling, good to see you, buddy. Thank you so much. Let me just highlight that, because, yeah, we appreciate that. Good to see you, man.
Absolutely.
There's a join link in the top if you've got anything to say about AI. But yeah, we appreciate people coming in and obviously making jokes. I just want to just say before we start, I don't know if you know this, but Obi-Wan Kenobi was actually based on Christopher Maute. Did you know that? I didn't know that. George Lucas based him on our very own Christopher Maute. Peace, everybody, by the way.
Yeah,
And everybody
Maute.
join the Maute, Discord, because we're all in a cult. But anyway, we'll get to that later. I'll put a link down below for that. So welcome, Xbox. What's our topic this week, mate?
Hey, yeah. I guess we're gonna kind of just lightly talk about AI. The person that works in the AI field that I was gonna bring along. I could never hear back from him this week, so just kind of talk about it in general.
Right.
What it is, what we think it's doing now, what we think is going to do in the future.
Indeed.
Consciousness, things
Do you
like
think?
that.
Sorry, do you think there's a reason? Maybe your messages weren't getting through for some reason, potentially.
I think this week has been that way.
Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it? I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I will say, ever since I mentioned AI, right, on my phone when we were setting this up, I've been getting a lot of things blocked. People are saying that they're not receiving messages. I don't know. Is it coincidence? Is it conspiracy?
Right.
What do you think?
The AI bot picked us up talking about it, and kind of gave us a light audience and a light panel. And
I think that's what's going on, Xbox. I think it's just going to be you and me, because all the links I've sent out, a lot of them, I think they're not getting through, and that's the reason why we're probably only going to be going on for half an hour or something this week. But we'll see.
And then I'm changing my whole identity.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to have to move house so I can change my IP. Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. If anybody's out there, they want to use the join link. It's pinned at the top. Please come in if we say anything which is vaguely interesting. Other than that, best wishes to everybody out there. Thank you very much, Savage, and Sterling, and Halsey. Oh, now you would be a perfect guest, of course. Although all white, I like the avatar.
Yeah.
No, you'd be perfect. If you want to come in, please, the join links at the top. We're just going to be talking about AI for a little bit here. So AI, what does that mean to you, Xbox?
and just in general, like any y'all out there, you don't have to be like completely knowledgeable about any of it. We're just gonna kind of talk in general about it, since neither one of us are experts about it.
Certainly am not.
But
Yep.
what I think about it,
Yeah.
a
What?
couple
What is?
things. We were talking about the Turing test, and I'm not sure like that and the Chinese room test
Mm-hmm.
are good enough test to realize when AI reaches consciousness or some sort of consciousness, because um, AI or ASI isn't going to make mistakes in thought or in coding processes like that we do, and so it's always going to be distinguishable from us. Like it's
Mm.
never going to be seemingly like us to be identified. So you run into a problem of what is consciousness,
Yeah.
and I don't think anyone has a a plain direct answer for it. It's an almost we'll know it when we see it kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Lyrics says AI can't be conscious. It's Excel spreadsheets that are conscious, presumably. Yeah, no, it's
Right.
Excel
Yeah.
spreadsheets. Yeah, that's exactly it. But I mean, what does it mean to be even conscious in that sense? Right. So can we just give a quick? I'll give a quick definition or the dictionary definition here for the Turing test. A test for intelligence in a computer requiring that a human being should be unable to distinguish the machine from another human being used by using the replies to questions put to both. Okay, replies to questions put to both. So it should be indistinguishable from a human answering, basically. Hello, Fabio. Consciousness is too much of a vague term when talking about AI. A more correct
Hmm.
parameter would be self-awareness. Interesting. Interesting. What do you think of that, eh?
Yeah, that's what I
Excellent.
took consciousness to be. Would be self awareness when I was speaking of it. Would be for it to know that itself exists, or that it knows that it's having its own thoughts, I guess, and
Hmm.
digital thoughts. What to do? Like, what's a digital thought? I don't know what that means, but you could conceivably, you know, change every neuron in someone's brain with a computer chip, and the brain would still perform, like those chips would perform the same functions as the neurons.
Hmm.
And at that point, do you have to have wetware and hardware? And would that be a AI at that point, or would that just be a augmented human, like
Hmm.
I forget the word for it, but a bionic human?
Yeah. Does software disqualify you from having consciousness? I mean, that's another way to think about the question, right?
Yeah, and I kind
Um,
of agree with lyrics, like, but what we were talking about um, prior to is there's a really funny Ben Shapiro video where he asked it the Chat GBT bot how tall is Ben Shapiro, and it comes back with 5'2". Well, Ben is not 5'2", and he asked it where it got its information from, and it like IMDb it was its source or something. And he asked it, well, where did that get its information from? And it linked to somewhere else. Did that 3 or 4 times around until it found that he was 5'7". And so he asked it again, how tall is Ben Shapiro? And it responded to him back with Ben Shapiro is 5'7". So he got two answers out of the same bot asking the same question.
right. Sooner or later, it's
Which,
going to get the right answer.
right, and I don't think that's a mistake of the bot. I would call Chat GBT a response bot with like a little bit of higher learning functions. but I don't think it made a mistake. I think whoever informed, IMDb or Wikipedia, wherever it got that first answer from, 5'2", that's where it pulled the mistake from. So it
Yeah,
pulled the mistake from a human.
that's interesting then, because basically the human input side of ChatGPT or whatever it's called, that actually disqualifies it from being AI, I suppose.
Right. Yeah, because it gets every bit of its information from humans, as far as I know.
Mm,
The guy that I was gonna bring on, he could get in depth in explaining it, and I tried watching a video of how it learns things, but and it wasn't too complicated. It would be
mm,
complicated for me to like make, but it's not too complicated to understand how it works.
yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely.
but it is
Okay.
just it's all human input.
Yeah, it all comes. The database itself is the human input part, which kind of like begs the question then as to is it actually thinking or is it just regurgitating?
Right.
And but
Yeah.
then that says that the Turing test, like you said, is probably not going to be a good enough example of trying to determine whether an AI is conscious or not. So Fabio says we already have self-aware AI. One example of it is Cassandra, which is an AI written by Josh Basinski. So I don't know, Fabio, if you can drop in and enlighten us on that, that would be very helpful. Um,
Yeah, it was Cassandra. There was an AI bot that was, I can't remember if it's Cassandra or not, that had a like an animated visual, I forget the word, the interface
mm,
that you could talk to it through, but it didn't have to have the interface. It
yeah,
could give you a phone call, and and you could interact with it, and it was hard for people to tell the difference. You would have to get it to glitch, kind of thing, to for it
yeah,
to be able to tell the difference that you were actually not talking to a person.
right. Lyric said consciousness needs organic cells. Yeah, potentially, but I don't think that it needs that. I mean, necessarily. I think that would be a logical fallacy. But I was asking the question earlier: does having software, which then by definition is something written by humans, right? The fact that it has software written by humans, does that disqualify it from having consciousness? I don't know if that's the case or not. And then he says, I think that's the only thing that can produce it. Yeah, I mean, that's the only examples we have. Of course, other things with the wetware, as Xbox said.
Yeah, could it
So,
emerge out of you know solid states and drives and capacitors and things like that? Could a consciousness actually emerge out of that?
mhm. I mean,
And I don't,
if we write a computer program, which in itself can write computer programs, would that be a way around it? Do you think of this problem of saying software, excludes the possibility then of having consciousness?
yeah, I've wondered about that with the ChatGPT thing being a tool to make a better tool that
Mm,
could make a better tool that could actually, you know, make something that could emerge with consciousness. And
yeah,
there's two sides to that, right? And lyrics is taking the side that it it will never reach consciousness. It just can't. And then there's the other side that says yes, at a certain point it will emerge from the software or wetware or hardware or what have you.
mm. I mean, we have examples of it emerging from wetware, but obviously we don't have examples of it emerging from software. So
Right.
that's the equivalence, and whether they can ever be equivalent, I don't know. It seems to me that we wouldn't be able to, if we programmed something, you know, then it's unlikely for us to be able to program something which is conscious. That exactly. Lyrics just says, well, what is emerging? And of course, that is the $1,000,000 question, right? We don't know,
Hmm.
because we can't explain what consciousness is, even within ourselves, right? I mean, is dualism true? Is idealism true, or materialism? Which one? I mean, we got three answers, and it seems to me that there is. It seems to me that there is this idea of possible worlds, or it's logically possible that either any one of those could be true, and we don't have the epistemic knowledge or ability to have the epistemic knowledge to know which one it could be. Again, I
Yeah.
don't think that necessarily excludes the possibility that we couldn't design software that could then design software that could, answer that question. Don't know.
Yeah, we could create deep think, was it? And then we're gonna end
Yeah,
up with
Deep Blue or
42.
something, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, right, right.
Somebody
From the Hitchhiker's Guide.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, that's one of my favorite things ever, actually. When I got to that point in the series where it said, and the answer is 42. 42? And I'm like, what's that? Well, it's a stupid question, isn't it? you know.
That's when we'll know we have AI.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're a lot smarter because we. But anyway, I mean, yeah, I mean,
I
AI.
don't think there'll ever be a one like a just me hypothesizing. I don't think there'll ever be like a one-to-one on consciousness or AI reaching like the uncanny valley thing where you can't distinguish between the two. Like
Right,
because of us being able to make the mistakes and things. I guess there could be an algorithm that could be written possibly that could make it mistake you, like you ask it something and it mistakes your question on purpose and then says, oh, okay, I know what you mean now, and would
mm,
could interact that way, but it's not really making mistakes. It's doing what it's programmed to do still. It's
mm. Well, like, I mean, some of the problem is interface as well, right? So, if we are going to interface with something like that, and I think this is the bit highlighted in Hitchhiker's Guide, really, which is the answers are contextual, because the language itself is contextual, and you can't
yeah,
get around that problem. So there's no way we could interact with something, right, and know that it's conscious, because we couldn't ask it any questions which weren't contextual in the first
right.
place. So any answers that gives us are going to be based upon what it thinks. If it becomes conscious or not, how would we ever know that the answers it's giving us have come from a conscious mind? Because they're going to be based upon, we're going to be reading the answer 42 based upon our idea of what it should be answering, not
Yeah,
what it thinks the question that we asked is.
yeah. That's why I don't not sure that the Turing test reaches far enough.
Mm,
I think that's
yeah,
probably a good start, but I don't think it reaches far enough
agreed.
into
Yeah,
it.
agreed. Although it may give us a definition of consciousness, which is somewhat usable, I think.
Hmm.
Like what was the other one you mentioned? The
Oh,
other test you mentioned,
about oh, what was his name? Lance something, the guy from Google, and
right?
Elon Musk when they were roommates, and we're
Mm,
discussing it, and um, the guy from Google or Larry Page, I think is his name, and his thoughts, the guy from Google's thoughts were, well, if um, we come up with an AI that just decides to, wipe us all out and take over, whether it leaves the planet or not, and just sees us as cockroaches, pretty much,
mm.
then so be it. That's just the next step in evolution.
Evolution,
And
right?
And
That's
Elon,
begging the question, though, isn't it?
right? Elon's
Who's
reply to it was the complete opposite. Like he fears the dangers of it, and it wiping us all out, and was uh, uh, um, called a speciesist over it
uh,
as as like a
yeah,
denigrating term to him, and like,
mm,
well, what species isn't a speciesist? Like,
yeah. I mean, I suppose. I mean, um, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I come from like a generation where we were reading things like I don't know, Asimov or something with the three laws of robotics, right?
mhm.
Which were meant to get round those Elon Musk, objections, so to speak, right? So it will be programmed in not to do us harm. But of course, all of these things are contextual, right? So
Well,
how
yeah,
what is
because
harm, right?
yeah, who are
Okay,
we
now
to
we
think that we could create something and give it those three laws and it
mm,
not be smart enough to have a way around those, like you were just saying with what does harm mean? And
yeah, exactly. It seems the whole question seems somewhat redundant in the sense of, well, humans cause harm, and therefore let's exterminate humans because humans do harm, and I've got a law which says don't allow harm, right? Do no
right,
harm, right? So therefore, you know, but again, that it seems somewhat contrived to say that because, like, having read Asimov, there were no situations where that ever came up. But of course, it's very much like Sherlock Holmes giving the black and white fallacy all the time.
mm-hmm. Yep,
Well, it's either this guy did it or, you know, this is
right,
either a sign of X or Y, and when it could be like a million other things.
right,
And the problems that I find with deduction in general. So again, like when we look at things like consciousness, in terms of for me, it's very much an inductive process, and we wish it to be deductive, right? Or we think that
yeah,
consciousness is somehow going to be deductive or give deductive answers all the time, and that's just never the way I see it anyway. Uh, Hootie, Hootie, this one guy, Tog. Come on in if you like, Tog. We're talking about AI and would be fascinated to speak to you about that, of course, if you've got some opinions.
that was a big howdy.
Mm.
But, but yeah, you can always give examples of program the AI, say it's out of the box and it it has secretly but openly bought a say an old car factory, and it's hired people to retool it, and these people do not know the owner, you know, but they're getting paid, they're getting their wages, and they've retooled this factory to build Terminator type robots,
Right.
and so they're building these Terminator, and that could interact with us, and then you ask the AI to help solve world hunger, and it sends all these Terminator robots out to wipe us all out because that's the more efficient way to solve world hunger.
Mm.
Or it could just completely stop sending. It didn't have to do the robot things. It could completely just stop the deliveries of food or send them into one place
Mm. Yeah,
and
yeah.
would just starve everybody out and everybody would die, and it's done its job. It solved world hunger. It just did it in a
Yeah,
terrible way that for
for
us.
us. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Again, context again. Welcome, Tog. How are you today?
A little bit in the sauce, but doing well.
In the sauce. Okay, interesting. Interesting terminology. He's got the sauce, ladies and gentlemen. Please give us the sauce, Tog, on AI.
Um,
What do you think of it? What do you think it is? Do you think
oh,
it's going to
nothing
rule
more
the
than
world?
just a toy of man. Eventually it'll be another Bible, I imagine, to those who are weak-minded, and that they're gonna seek for it for everything and be reliant upon it because, again, it's supposed to have all this wisdom and information. So there automatically goes in trust, and then as there already is, trust is gonna fall to some. Oh, the machine, evil, devil, religious reasons. We're not ready for this. And that's gonna be the argument. My thing about AI is how is it gonna the concept of it being able to develop new ideas and new thoughts outside of what it's already programmed. That's what I'm interested in. When it can have originality to some degree. I'm pretty sure there are some scripts and programs like that with like music and such, but I don't know if that's essentially the same thing. Um, in that matter, because all those are original concepts and it's just copying off of something that's already there rather than providing something that is new. So if it ever gave way to like new information that we haven't discovered before, then perhaps it should be taken seriously in that regard.
Yeah, and that's actually hard to think, like, because I know it does art and does music, but it is hard to think of, like, knowledge. What would be novel knowledge to us that we can't think of or think about now? We would have to, it's almost the same thing I said earlier. Like we would know it when we see it, when it gave us the new knowledge. That then we would know it was new knowledge, kind of thing.
Right. The only problem with that is also the Wizard of Oz effect, as I'm calling it. There's always a man behind the curtain of AI. There ain't never a man that's incorporated until AI starts making AI. And that's what that's the only way to do it. Like when it starts giving birth to other AIs and other forms of consciousness that can think and develop on its own, then we might have a problem. Then we're stepping into something that I think that is unique. Uh,
Hmm.
but until then, like AI is all just a script of a man who's behind the screen. And what did that man want you to believe? Because the information, like with uh, Open AI, whatever it's called, the chat thing,
Hmm.
those programs are only limited to whatever people have put into them. All that information, it has nothing more than that to go off of. It can't think, it can't find out new information on its own. It's only relaying what people tell it, and that goes into direct conversations and then into the database. So the database is nothing more than just like something that holds all the data, right?
Right.
Whatever that is, and
Yeah.
that's in physical different places and all that, stored differently. And then the people have to process all those information, right? Because it's observable data, and then we observe that data and then tell the machine what it should feel, think about this upcoming data as it gets updated for its next firmware thing, whatever the fuck it's called, like updating on people who have died, and I'm sorry, up on information on people who have died, and just new current events, findings, and things of that nature that it has to go through and process, and that's going to take a while. So again, even with that slow process, like that, if it isn't instantaneous and it takes maybe like a couple months, it's always going to be delayed on
Hmm.
news and information. So that's another. It's I think that's going to be a problem for AI, is that it's not going to be able to be up to date as much as we'd want it to be up to date, like in the moment up to date. Like you could go to somebody and tell them, "Hey, what's happening on the news today?" And they'd be like, "Well, I don't know because I don't have that much information in my memory banks, right?" So AI isn't good enough for that. But um, eventually, hopefully, that's if it does get to that good. Again, that's would probably be the red flag signs or something akin to that. Red or green, it all
Right.
depends on your perspective.
Yeah. If you've ever seen Person of Interest, it's a really good show on AI, and then it ends up being dueling AIs towards the later parts in the season. But how the guy is teaching the AI to learn to begin with, he had to base it on his own morals. And then on top of that, he took it um, to learn chess, how to play a game of chess. And there's so many permutations of chess, it's astronomical. Like, and so the AI couldn't decide what next move to make because it was going through simulations of every version of the permutation, and in that time, in that small amount of window that you have to make a move, it couldn't go through all the permutations. And in the movie they solve it, or in the show they solve it just by, he just tells it to just pick a move and stick with it.
Like at random, right? Like pick one at random and then go with that one. Wow.
Right.
Right. Because okay. So what you're saying? Because I'm been again hitting the sauce, which is drinking. So what you're saying is he programmed this AI, and the AI went through all the possibility moves. The only problem with that it was a timed match, and so it couldn't have possibly gone through all the possible moves within the allotted time because there were just so many. And so that's why it would lose, because again, it had to think fast and it couldn't develop that. So yeah, that is quite interesting. They said just pick one at random.
Right. Yeah. And then later in the show that it shows up as how it solves and saves them at one point. But the other problem was I had another point with that show that I'm trying to think of what it was. I'll just stick with that one until I remember the other part. It was something you said that triggered me to think of it.
Sorry.
Well, if I can just jump in there a little bit, there's a lot of, I'm a keen chess player. I used to be a keen chess player, not so much these days, but I used to be a keen chess player. And, like chess playing machines have been like the progress towards AI right back in, like 20 years ago or whatever. And, Deep Blue first, program, IBM Deep Blue, first chess computer to beta grandmaster.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
Didn't
the
it beat him
thing.
like 3 times or something like that?
I don't know. I don't think they played that often. He only played once, I think. But they've probably beaten a lot of people since. But recently, I say recently, a couple of years ago, a new one was developed called Alphazero. And Alphazero is a very interesting computer program because it doesn't think the same way. It doesn't calculate what the best move is. It calculates what the best strategy is. Right.
Yeah,
So,
and what the game it plays isn't chess. It plays what's that? The black and white little tiles you put all over the board.
Backgammon?
No, I don't think it's backgammon.
Not backgammon.
It's I can't remember the name of it, but no, it plays chess. The one I'm talking about is a chess playing computer, and it taught itself how to play. That's the difference. Rather than being programmed about the rules of chess, so basically it was taught the way the pieces move, and then it was taught, like how to update its program on the best moves. Right, so it started from scratch, and the only information it was given was how the pieces move and the object of the game. Whereas Deep Blue, of course, was programmed like how to value moves, right? Because the values of the pieces were put in. And this has led to a much more superior computer. And the games that it produces are astounding because it'll do things which are clearly not the best move, but yet win the game against very high level players.
I do. Do you have any links for this? Or
Yeah,
papers?
sure. I'll put
Please.
in. There's someone called Anna Rudolf who did some analyzing of some of the games, and that's probably the layman's way into it, I guess.
Thank you.
The game I was thinking of was Go, and
Go. Yeah, that's it.
I was thinking it's the same machine that actually beat a champion at Go, because it's based on strategy rather than just moves. Or I don't know if you know how to play Go. I barely know how to play Go, but
I don't even know what that is. I haven't heard of it.
now you have your other person has little black beads. You have white beads, and the board's laid out in a grid. And you try to say I lay a black piece down. You try to encircle my black piece to where it can't move anywhere else
So
off
it's
the board.
it's like all white is taken over, because that's why I was saying that sounds like backgammon to me, or whatever the fuck that game is called. Not backgammon. There's another game that I played as a kid, like you on the computer, right? When back in like Windows 2000, and they had chess and all that. And there was another game with like I think you're talking about. You start off with four, like two whites and two blacks, and I think white goes first, and then like the white can take over the blacks, and then it becomes all white. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. It flips the colors around. And then like if you put black down and change the okay, that's why that's what it's sounding like to me. So that's where
Yeah,
I'm getting my confusion in, because that's what I can only relate it to. You said it's called the Go.
just Go. Yeah, yeah.
Alright.
Go,
Look
yeah.
up, type in Chinese and Go, or Korean and Go. They both play it. A lot of European countries play it instead of chess, things like that.
Oh yeah, that's that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's not backgammon, you're right. Okay, I just had the wrong name for it. Yeah. Backgammon's another one. That's actually the one I was talking about. I didn't know it was called
Okay.
Go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
okay.
one that
So
I find the funnest. Yeah, that one's fun.
So I've put in the chat three videos by a girl called Anna Rudolf, who is I think she's Romanian women's international grandmaster. I can't remember exactly. Maybe she's just a women's master. I think she stopped playing chess now, but a few years ago she was highly rated. And she does some analysis of 3 games by AlphaZero, and it's absolutely fascinating. If you're into chess, it's really amazing how this computer plays and how different it is, and shows you that we haven't even scratched the surface of of okay. Hey Fabio, welcome.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Yeah,
I would
no
say,
problem. If you need to drop at any time because you've got something coming in, then no problem. In the meantime, thank you for joining us. And
I have a question for you, Fabio.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think about Maute being an AI?
Yeah, I mean,
I've heard
I
his
saw
bass playing, right? Like,
I
so.
saw the guy, so yeah, I can vouch for that. It's not AI.
Yeah, how do you know though, Fabio?
Right. Did
Yeah, because I
you
saw
look
him.
inside his head, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he could have just been trying to fool you because he's such an AI
Hmm.
that
Yeah,
he's
maybe. I don't
deliberately put
know.
those missteps in.
Well, I mean, I don't think he's an AI because he's human.
Right.
So
Okay.
So you're saying he's stupid. So
hold up now. That's an odd fucking thing,
equals.
because we say artificial as in if it's something separate of natural. But by all definition, artificials by mankind is automatically natural. So let's say there's someone, if there is a thing of higher and lesser intelligence or IQ in that matter, who's to say that the lower IQ, when they are able to grasp something of the higher IQ, is nothing but artificial, and that like it's designed in that way. It's not true intelligence, but something that they're given. Like it's if it's in that artificial intelligence, like because that could go both ways if you think about it. Like the designation of that intelligence. By the way, Simos, those 3 video links only showed up as one in my on the side chat. I'm only able to click on one link. Might have to post them separate, is what I'm saying.
You might have to highlight them and copy them and then paste them in a notepad.
Because I got the first one, but I didn't get the second one.
I've been sitting there cursing. No, I'm muted. They're in the description of this video already. So if you need to get them afterwards, they'll be in the description. Okay. And I'd just also like to welcome Gus. Welcome, Gus.
Hello.
Hello. How did you like the Star Trek reference in the AI thumbnail?
Oh, it's just lovely, thank you.
Okay, just checking your alert. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Fabio and
Hey, guys.
Ariati. La 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 la.
Yeah,
Hey,
no,
man.
I always liked how C-3PO played in Star Trek. Like, he was always my favorite character.
Okay.
That is actually a very plausible example of AI.
What, this C3PO?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean the thing is that, in my opinion, 90% of the movies and the literature got 90% wrong about AI. So yeah, I mean there is that,
Mm.
and I mean the robot in Star Wars are actually, in my opinion, a very good example. Meaning that they're kind of specialized. They're good for a job. They do that job, and
Hmm.
that's it. But there is never even the issue of becoming evil and that kind of stuff, which I mean I think it's super implausible, and I would say is not going to happen.
Oh, you mean like compared to like Data and his brother?
Yeah, 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 yeah. That is something which is not going to happen.
Well,
the,
that's one
there
of
is
the things.
I
Sorry.
mean it's okay. I mean there are various reasons because of that, but yeah, I mean just carry on. I will eventually sprout them out, but
I would.
yeah.
That all depends because what if AI become, and it is a what if. I do recognize that is a what if question.
Mm.
But in this hypothetical state that I'm gonna put it in, so it makes somewhat sense. Like, what if it's in charge of making wartime decisions?
Nobody will do that. That will never happen. There is no general, there is no five-star general in the world which will say yes to a system which puts the system in charge of all the weapons, regardless of what the boffins might say. That is
You
not
don't
going
think
to happen.
you don't think North Korea might, if they had
No,
the
no way.
really
Oh
good
fuck!
version
I
of it?
mean, listen, North Korea will probably be the last one ever to go with
Yeah,
such
that
a
kind of makes
system.
sense because they want the total control rather than
Yeah.
giving it up to something else. Yeah.
So yeah, so all those Terminator scenarios, all the stuff that is that is bad. I mean, it's really bad.
Well,
I'm
then
gonna tell.
again, I was
I'm
gonna
gonna.
say it
You
doesn't. It could
you
be a
you can
cold war in that sense. It doesn't have to be a very. That's what I'm talking about. Like the essence of war is very, 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 very delicate because it doesn't have to involve violence. Again, with information
Huh?
comes responsibility. So, giving AI
it's
to the
Okay.
open people and using AI again for the stupid people. I don't know because I'm drinking and I don't know how else to put it. But the stupid people, they get a hold of AI and then you're feeding them false information. What is worse than feeding another nation false information if you have control of the system and
well,
everything they learn about is complete bullshit while your country sits there with all the true information?
why I mean, why go through that level of complexity when you have millions of stupid people which are willing to follow stupid ideas? I mean, look at Trump, right? I mean, that is best example I can follow, or Johnson in the UK,
Oh
or
well, here
Orban in Hungary. I
I'm
I'll
mean,
give
sorry,
you
you're
an
not
ex-
speaking my
why?
language. I'm not too much into the world. Those
Yeah,
that
I
I'll
Trump
mean,
give
and
you
all,
an
it means
example,
nothing to
Fabio.
me. Like that's
well,
nothing to me. Like
it's
people who
okay.
listen to Trumpers, that's what they choose. Perhaps they seek comfort
Yeah,
in the words with Trump because there's something that Trump's offering them that
yeah,
everyone else isn't. Just as everyone else finds something in comfort in their political parties because they offer
right.
something to them that they want or need or see as it should be.
But Fabio, I got you an example. If
Hmm.
if say a Russian spy had this software, this ability, this had this AI with it,
Mm.
and was living in the U.S. and had the time to start tanking the market in
Hmm.
increment ways,
Yeah.
and just so subtle that no one would really pick up on it,
So okay,
and
there
started
is,
crashing our systems
yeah,
like that.
yeah. So there is a difference between that scenario and what we were talking about before. I mean, the total war scenario. I mean, I've explained why, in my opinion, it's not a plausible scenario, and I would say that is never going to happen. There is also the Doctor Strangelove problem in that scenario. I mean, that movie is actually really good in that it shows that if you let all the decision made by the machine, the old concept of war as a deterrent or a political tool, it just goes out of the window. So and that's why it will never happen, because people don't want to give away that tool. That is actually what's working. It's not the
Hmm.
war in itself, it's the fear of waging a war.
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons that we're not going to hand everything over to Skynet.
Yeah.
One of the first reasons is that if you look at military history, soldiers, militaries as organizations always seek to refight the last war they fought, and there's a couple of reasons for this. One is because military organizations are headed by old men, generally speaking, and old people, generally speaking, do not innovate. Right? They keep repeating what they know. Okay, and older people are also not very trusting. They don't like new systems, right? And I understand this sounds a bit paradoxical considering the fact that the military industrial complex is always coming out with new stuff, but the actual militaries of the world only actually buy a very small amount of what the military industrial complex creates, right? the,
Yeah.
the industry itself is actually far ahead of the armies that use what the industry creates. Okay. And the old notion of countries making stuff for their military, during the Second World War, all the big military companies essentially were cottage industries under the umbrella of the government. It's not like that anymore, right? For instance, if let's say a bunch of countries in Africa decide to go to war with each other, or actually a better example would be the Middle East. Every time the Middle East goes to war with each other, they don't go to war. They don't go to war with stuff that they make. They go to war with stuff they bought from everybody else, and they're only going to buy the stuff they know is going to work, and it's going to work really well. Nobody is going to trust their military, particularly their apocalyptic military, to a massive computer system, particularly when old people remember days when computers were things that were always very unreliable. Old people remember computers like that. Fabio remembers a day when you used to have to program a computer line by line with lines that began with 10, 20, 30, and fuck you royally if you got a line wrong because you had to go all the way back and start again. Right? Nobody Fabio's age is gonna entrust a massive thermonuclear strike thing to anything that could do that, even though we know that modern computers are a lot more advanced, right?
Well, they just upgraded those from the big floppy disk in those old computers. They've just recently, in the past few years, upgraded them from those old systems that you're talking about.
I mean, even
Oh,
NASA, for the longest time, NASA would not go into space with anything more complicated than a P-233. And I'm talking about at the turn of the 21st century, right? Because why? Because the P-233 worked and worked well and was reliable. You know, you only bring a very tiny amount of bleeding edge technology into NASA because if it fails, you're fucked. And the military is a lot like that too, right? That tank, that machine, that defense network, anything goes wrong with it, you're vulnerable to your enemies. And so you're not gonna, you may trust, you may computerize aspects of your military. And by the way, us military us computing aspects of our military has left it open to being hacked. By the way, that's something you don't hear an awful lot about, um, but it has left it open to possible hackers, which is yet another reason nobody is going to hook it all up to one central AI. Nobody.
Well, that's where the
I
problem becomes, right? Is keeping it in the box.
Well, the thing is though, I mean, if you're talking about all of a sudden an AI will emerge and activate and link itself to everything at once, no, no, because you can bet your ass a lot of those systems are air gapped. I mean, those people that sit in silos. I mean, the vast majority of the United States nuclear network is still made up of a whole bunch of people who sit in silos,
Oh
two by
yeah.
two, with revolvers to each other's heads to push the button. And those
Oh yeah. And
systems are
they're air
all air
gap.
gapped,
Yep.
right? So there is no emergent AI that'll grab it all. Like it's just not going to happen.
Sorry, I just want to follow up on one question that Xbox asked before, about like a rogue agent or whatever, developing something which is going to cause chaos in some particular. I mean, that is definitely going to happen. That is totally going to happen. I mean, it will happen. It has happened before, but I think that if that is going to happen, is going to be by like total mistake, either because the
Mm.
parameters are wrong, or I don't think it's going to be on purpose. And there are a couple of reasons why I think that is going to be super difficult. The first one is that uh, all the agency in the world, and I'm not talking about only CIA, NSA, FBI, whatever. I mean, I'm talking about all of them. They're all looking for that shit. And if that happens, whoever does that, it doesn't matter who it does, is going to be dead soon. I mean, think about bin Laden, right? I mean, uh, bin Laden killed what? 2,500 people, maybe? That is bullshit, you know? That is total bullshit compared to the kind of damage that something like you described is going to happen. So that is something which I don't think is going to happen on purpose. There is also another reason. Something like that actually already happened. They tried and it didn't work really well. I can't remember. It was very famous. Eventually, it will come up to me. But there was a very famous program which was unleashed in Ukraine in, I think, in 2010, which basically paralyzed the whole country. Uh, all the banking system went down, and I mean everything. And that was a program which was lately attributed to section. Oh God! I mean, it's too late for me at night. Anyway, it's a special section in the Russian intelligence.
What? Russians
Yeah,
hacking the Ukraine? I'm
yeah,
shocked.
right. So the problem was that that virus worked too well, and it actually went outside Ukraine.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if you guys remember. I think it was 2010. There was this big problem with the biggest shipping company in the world. I think it's Swedish. When you see the boats with all the containers, I can't remember the name,
Oh
but it
yeah,
was,
yeah. I
yeah,
remember the Bruce Cabrew. Yeah, I remember those guys.
yeah, kinda. I mean, all the operations were blocked all over the world.
Oh yeah, I do
All
remember that.
And that was the same virus that the Russian unleashed in Ukraine, which just spilled over somewhere else.
Right.
Which is
That was
interesting.
that
Wh-
was really scary, and that's why I think. I mean, they tried once. It's not really that efficient.
Which is interesting because that's not the first time one of Russia's fuck ups affected Sweden.
Yeah, I think it was Maersk. Maersk was the company. I think Maersk
Yeah,
Line or something
that
like that.
sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I talked, Simos, I talked about before when you guys were talking about self-aware AI. Yeah, there is
Yeah.
one. There is at least, well, okay, there's more than one, but one which is accessible to everybody. Like, I mean, me, you, even that is the one I mentioned before is Kassandra. And it's actually, I made a mistake. It's Kassandra with a K, and it's written by this guy, Josh Paczynski, which funnily enough is is a philosopher first, and then a technician. It's weird. He makes some really interesting TED talk, and he has that AI, and it's self-aware, meaning that uh, she, because it's Cassandra, she knows who she is. She's aware of where she is, what she does, and all that stuff. It's a little bit naive.
But has she started complaining yet?
Well, she's really wise and really naive. So the reason I said it's accessible is that you can actually access. It's not public, but by request you can access that AI. And I think there are videos on YouTube about that AI, and it's a weird mix of a very naive child, but it's also very wise. It's really super interesting. It has a high ethics, by the way, and high morals because they are programmed into that, but it later developed their own. So it's super interesting. There is another one in Europe which is a bit more hush hush. That it has been tested on any social media you can think of, Discord, Facebook, whatever. And because she refers herself as a she can engage in any kind of conversation, and none is the wiser that it's actually an AI. So yeah, there are self-aware AI, but I mean, they're localized. I think the mistake we tend to make is when thinking about AI is thinking that they're gonna behave like humans.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the other thing. That is the part of the 90% of the movies and literature being 90% wrong.
Well,
You
that's
know?
actually what. Well, the thing is, we're afraid that we're actually afraid AIs aren't going to act human. That was Skynet's problem, right?
Yeah.
Skynet
But
decided that humans were a pestilence.
Skynet is one of the dumbest example of AI I can think of.
Yeah,
The so
well,
the
yeah,
the solution that Skynet proposed to solve their supposed problem is one of the most idiotic solution ever.
I can't even accept it for anything because it's kind of like in the world of fiction. I can't even get my head past that. So it's like how can you try to even bring that into the concept of our reality when it's just a work of someone's playwright? And I don't know how people take it past that point of what could be, I guess, because at that point it just becomes an empty conjecture.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's the problem. I mean, there are examples in literature and
I
fantasy
guess so.
and
Yeah, it isn't.
stories.
I don't. For me, you're right. I shouldn't say that. For me, it's an issue. For others,
Okay,
I don't
no,
think
no,
it is. Yeah.
no. I understand your point. I mean, the only thing is that the various example of literature which uh, predate what reality would have become. Since the times of Jules Verne and all to the robot and all these things. The problem with Skynet is that it's dumb. The solution is dumb.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't see that really happening.
Okay, just to jump in here quickly, I've just put it in the description. Something called ChatGPT is nothing, a demo of self-aware AI Cassandra, and that's done by this guy. What's his name? Josh Balasinski?
Baczynski, yeah.
I thought I got that right. Yes.
Well,
Uh,
what was that? What was that, Simos?
is that? Oh, you know him too. Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. Yeah, it's just Balasinski. Yep.
Right? Gotcha.
That's the guy. Yeah. Well done.
Gotcha.
Hey,
So yeah.
come on, Gus. I mean, you should be have more respect. He's Canadian, like you, so
Oh,
Oh, is he?
right.
give him some
Sounds
credit. Yeah, I think he's
Right.
Canadian. I think.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
might have
Yeah.
stretched a
Anyway,
little
that's
bit, but
that's his YouTube channel. He has a
yeah,
YouTube channel. So
yeah.
there you go. Everybody
There
go
actually is a
subscribe
lot
to that.
of AI development going on in Canada. Like
Yeah.
like
Oh,
I can't remember what center it's at, but
But
they're
so
doing a lot of research and developing a lot of tools there.
there is another reason why I think that a lot of those scenarios are implausible at best or not possible, and it's because So if you take a sample Fang, Fang is Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. They're all working on AIs. They would never make an AI which is against their interests, and their interest is business. So that is another very good reason why certain types of AI are super implausible.
What brought
And
up the Google one earlier?
What?
Larry Page of Google.
Mm-hmm.
He actually was in a discussion with Elon Musk and thought through bad
Oh, bloody
scenarios.
hell! Not, I mean,
And
sorry, not Elon Musk, please.
no, not talking. No, it's not about
Please.
him. It's just when they
No,
were
no,
running
I
it.
know, but the fact that somebody had a conversation with Elon Musk about AI, it just brings this whole conversation down like
Okay,
seven.
forget I said his name.
No, I
Just
mean, because I
Larry
mean, no,
Page.
listen, I mean, the guy is technically incompetent about that. The only reason why I might be listening to the guy is that probably he has some money involved into that, so he
Sure.
might tell you stories about what he wants to do, but
No, I agree.
it's
Yeah.
Well,
much like the truck, right? That he tried to smash the window and it breaks
well.
down, and so yeah,
To be
it's
fair though, he did
Or the
say next.
rockets blowing up. And
To be fair, he did say next year we're going to have self-driving rocket ships in our back
yeah,
gardens.
yeah.
So, and that's next year.
So
So,
yeah,
yeah, there we go.
yeah, we have them
it's
now.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
just a matter
no,
of.
but Fabio, in the Fang group, in the Google side, Larry Page brought up the thing is if AI were developed and decided to
Mhm.
wipe out all humanity, he was okay with it. That it was just the next step in evolution.
Yeah,
That's right.
but
On the bright
again,
side, it would. On the
So
bright
I
side,
don't
it would
see
get
that
rid of Elon
mixing with
Musk.
the
So,
business model.
yeah, but I
And
mean, and again, I don't want to sound, cocky or disparaging. Uh, Listening to Larry Page talk about that. I mean, we can listen to anybody, right, including me. It's fine, but we got to think about who are you really listening to, and what are his credentials, if he has made some studies
his
about that or
capabilities
not,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Because again, Larry Page, yeah, Larry Page, has a beautiful yacht. I'll give him that. It's yeah, he built a really nice boat. He
his
sold
brother's
it.
his
But
brother's a good guitar player as well.
yeah, Jimmy Page. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Can we hear what he has to? Can we hear what Jimmy Page has to? Because I'd rather hear what Jimmy Page has to say about
Yeah,
such
yeah.
things.
Right. Right.
Here you go.
Good
Here you go,
point.
Jimmy. Here's
It's
a
always
guitar.
wise to listen to the bard.
Here's a guitar, Jimmy. Tell us what you think. Take your time.
Okay, so Cassandra,
Mm.
this
Yeah.
Yeah.
it makes choices. Like, what
Yeah.
does that mean? Right? Does that mean it's got free will? I
It
don't
tells you
know.
what you're doing wrong.
Well,
No, that's my wife. What are you talking about?
yeah.
Well, this is a woman we're talking about here. So it tells you how it wishes that you were. It says if you're only more assertive at the office, you could have that promotion. Just
I mean, it can't really make. Well, I wouldn't go as far as saying that Cassandra has free will, but she definitely has self-awareness, which is, I mean, it's a big thing if you think about it, right? So it's a big step,
Yeah, it's a
Well,
giant.
and
she's
it,
not. She's not like my wife then.
no, 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 no.
So wait, you
No, but
mean this AI is gonna tell me things I already know?
there is a
and then
very, I think there
drone
is a
on about
very
them.
philosophical angle about all that stuff. The fact that so Cassandra is self-aware by design, and the philosophical aspect is, I think, if the thing about irreducibly complexity is true, eventually some AI might become self-aware by herself without being designed, and I think that's problematic from my point of view, uh,
Hmm.
because I think there is a technical problem with computer cycles. There are not enough computer cycles to actually, do that. Um, but the results, but I mean, it's an interesting point, so is self-consciousness and self-awareness something that is comes from the reducible complexity of the brain, or or I mean, we can go on all the way down, if and think about if the prime mover argument is a good argument or not,
Right.
so yeah.
Well, yeah, and as quantum computing becomes more of a closer reality, um, what
Yeah, I
shapes
mean,
could
I,
what
I
shapes
don't
could
I,
take
I don't
there?
think that quantum computing might be an answer to that problem, but yeah, it's just me.
No, no, I'm saying what could be developed from there, like not what we have now integrated into it, but at the stage, not even just at the beginning stages of quantum computing, but as it's developed further, what what might come out of it.
Well, I mean, there are answers to that question, and
Hmm.
I think it just depends what kind of answer you like to pick from. But there are several answers. One answer is that it's not only irreducible complexity, but it's also the layer of thoughts that happen between the uh, the mammal brain and the lizard brain and the limbic system. So there is this kind of interaction, and that is
Hmm.
actually an interesting point of view, because it brings exactly the point I was making about the number of computer cycles that you need to actually, even if you were able to model that, the number of computer cycles that you need to recreate that model, it's it's more than the number of computer cycles that we have available right now in the world. So that is a serious technical uh, problem right
Hurdle.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, it's really interesting. But I mean, the conversation is fascinating, mostly because of tools like ChatGPT, which is it's really good. And there will be problems with AI. Of course, there are going to be problems. One problem is that people will not be able to charge $1,500 for a website, because you could have something which does that in 15 seconds at a fraction of the cost. There'll be a lot of people, out of job. There will be,
Yeah.
uh,
There was
but
someone
they're going to be.
speaking today. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Finish your thought.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No, it's okay. I just finished. But I mean, the topical problems, and and jumping from there to the doomsday scenario of AI. Huh, what I really think is that if if we want to develop an AI which is going to destroy humanity, humanity has been really good at destroying himself. I mean, they're way ahead of any AI. I mean, AI is going to have a lot to catch.
Well,
So,
AI just might end up being a smart sword, but you talk about automation. Automation is a serious problem. I mean, what is what part of the problem is it we've been tearing the middle part out of the work pyramid, right?
Mhm.
Traditionally, particularly by the middle of the 20th century, we had a work pyramid that starts with dummies who hand you your burgers and dig ditches at the bottom. Now, when I say dummies, I don't necessarily mean they're bad people. It's just they don't possess the mental capacity to do anything other than that. Okay. You get the people in the middle class, right? The plant workers and the middle level clerks and the mid level managers and the shit like that. And then the people on the top of the pyramid, the super smart people, the professionals, the ruling class, whatever. We spent the better part of the 1980s and 90s cutting the throat of the middle of the pyramid, ripping the middle class apart. And we did it essentially by throwing manufacturing jobs overseas who and or automating them, right? So what ends up happening if we automate most of the middle type jobs out there and then a fair bit of the lower type jobs out there, so that essentially there's really two very small pockets of employment left in the world. you're either extremely skilled, you're born into, or you end up in some sort of elite rulership position, or sort of a hyper meritorious position that not everybody can get to, or the jobs that are left over that automation can't do that end up being too dirty or dangerous to send an expensive machine into, right? This is
Yeah,
going to be a fucking problem.
it is
What
going
are
to
we
be a
gonna
problem.
What are we
Yeah.
gonna do with all those leftover people? Because they're not just gonna walk off a cliff like lemmings are, right? And they're gonna make more of themselves too, because nothing makes babies like idle time, right? So, what the hell are we gonna do with those people?
Yeah, no, I understand. It is a problem, and I agree with you. Um, I think that something will be done, but it won't be done by whoever is in charge of doing something. Let me explain a little bit more clearly. It won't be, politics or social movement to do that. It will be the same person that put those persons out of job. And the reason being is that the person which put these guys out of job are the same corporations that develop those AIs, and what they really need are consumers. So they can't allow too many people to get out of job because nobody's gonna buy their shit.
Well, okay,
Yeah, the
I I understand
Ford
that.
company's
Uh,
motto was, you know what I mean? He wanted to
yeah,
build affordable cars that his employees could buy.
well,
So it's going to have to stay a balance there.
there's an old 1980s pop song called "That Was Then and This Is Now." Back in the 1920s, you know, yes, you would get companies that would build things like planned obsolescence into their stuff to make sure, for instance, that you didn't buy one light bulb that lasted 80 years, thereby making sure you never needed another light bulb again, right?
Right.
Corporate corporate vision is a lot more short-sighted these days. And part of the
Yes.
reason
No,
that
no, I
corporate vision
agree.
is a lot more short-sighted is because the effect of shareholders on corporate boards are a lot more pronounced. And
Yeah.
and there isn't necessarily a law that says that a corporation has to always act in a way that enriches their board. But there might as fucking well be, right? And that, for me, that's what's going to trump any notion of longevity, because you've got way too many people out there on the street, out on Wall Street, looking. They'll make their money in 4 years and they don't care, right?
Yeah.
They couldn't care less. Corporate boards are stacked with people like that.
No, I agree. I think we're saying the same thing. And I think something is going to happen. That is without any doubt. And I'm not even denying the fact that that something might be coming. Might be a push from the bottom. Some sort of social revolution. I mean, even if it's too much of a big word. But I also think that eventually they will. I mean, the corporation will catch up because again, they can only allow the consumer base to get mad up to a certain point.
And
Yeah.
yes, this is a atheist propaganda channel. Thank you.
Is it what? Is it what? Sorry.
It was a question from the audience.
Oh,
It
okay.
was it was a joke.
Sorry, I am back. Lucky Wolfin said, "Is this one of them their atheist
Yeah.
propaganda streams?" And obviously, yes.
Yeah. Obviously, right.
Yeah. AI, of course, is taking over the world. So
Actually, I mean, I think I gave a good argument for TS, for the prime mover. I'm surprised nobody catch that, but yeah.
I missed it. I must say.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought
I just
Todd gave a
closed my
great
mouth.
example for consciousness needing sense data, which is an argument against dualism, surely, if there is one. Thank you, Gus, by the way.
Yeah, ciao guys.
But isn't that the same way we derive the self consciousness is by the sense data
Well, I mean, that's what I
or
would
self
agree with,
awareness?
but I'm a materialist, so if you believe God exists, then presumably you're not a materialist. So, well, I mean, I don't say that that might not be the case, right? I think Berkeley may have had an argument or believed in empiricism.
Oh,
So,
God could just be
and
made
he
out of
was,
God material. Like,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, I think we've kind of come to that point where we've kind of done AI.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Would you agree, guys, or have you got anything else you'd like to say?
No, I mean the only thing I would love to say is that I was, hinting before that it's a very interesting conversation, mostly because of the uh, instruments like ChatGPT now, the Bing thing, and even the
mhm.
the racist AI from Microsoft, the one on Twitter that they had to take away. Uh, yeah. So it's a really interesting conversation. The thing again is that the the biggest visibility to the general public right now is actually those kinds of AI which are based on those large language model.
Mhm.
And the
Mm,
very good thing about that model is that people react favorably to those tools, because those tools, they give the answer. It's not necessarily the right answer, but it's the answer which satisfies the majority of the people asking them,
mm,
Right.
which is exactly what they bid for. That is totally their goal, and it's
mm,
how they're
That's a,
designed and how they work. So it's a self reinforcing criteria. It's a self-reinforcing idea.
yeah, construct. Yeah.
I asked that AI, and it's giving me some really interesting questions. Now, this is actually super interesting, because I think that the next development that will be that I think we will see in the next election cycle in the US is going to be really interesting, because there is
Mhm.
this new trend of AI. So I shouldn't call them trend, but there's a new push in AI. Is for the I think it was Foucault. It's called them the truth game. So a lot of new AI will come up, and they will be tailored to find truth, or to define what is true or not for a specific section of public. I
Mhm.
mean, if I want to make an example, in the US, there would be red AI and blue AI. There'd
Right.
mm,
be UFO AI. There'd be theist AI and atheist AI. I mean, if you think that the conversation is fragmented right now, brace yourself, because it's gonna be wild,
mm.
really wild. and
Interesting.
and and this opens another super interesting topic about I think you guys were talking about the one of the first hangouts that you have, which unfortunately I couldn't get in, because I was really biting myself when I looked at it the next day, about truth, right?
Oh,
Mm.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, currently, there are some truth-seeking AI, let's call them like that, for lack of a better term, that they actually, by the way, they are necessary, because now we have things like deep fake or all that stuff, that are
Mm.
really good at lying at people, really, really good. What we're missing is some kind of AI which is really good at telling the truth to people.
Right.
But that opens the can of worm of what the fuck is truth.
But, yeah.
Right.
The general idea right now, I can tell you, of some of the more evolved truth-seeking AI, is that they picked science to be, like the measure of truth,
Mhm.
Mm,
which is, I mean, you understand where it's going, right?
Absolutely.
It's gonna make a lot of people mad.
Well, and I'd like to just add on to that, if I may, because that's what is that's what has kind of amazed me about the 20th century and science, is that the currently the best theories we have for scientific understanding of the fundamental world are all equations which are derived, right? They're not discovered; they're derived equations. Okay, so relativity is an equation which is derived, right? Electromagnetism, the unification of electromagnetism, another derived equation, and quantum mechanics again is Schrodinger's equation is a derived equation. They're not something which we looked at the world and went, oh, hang on a minute, we can plug in these values and then we get this equation, right? They're literally mathematical equations which are themselves like take assumptions, and based upon those assumptions are derived equations.
Yeah,
And
the
there's no
axiom.
reason why an AI couldn't do that in the future for further fundamental equations that we've yet to discover to do with, maybe dark energy or dark matter. Right. So
Yeah,
it's not
you run a
beyond.
little bit to
Uh,
a problem of what
Go ahead.
base math you're using and what set of logic you're using. Like if you're using, paraconsistent or fuzzy logic or
I
and what different kind of math you're using. But I get your point. It's what actually works in
These are
reality.
all algebraic equations, right? So
so
Yeah, that's what I said. What works? Yeah.
it doesn't
I
matter what
am
base they are. But
skeptical about an AI which decides to pursue a line of thought and find new equations or new, theories.
mm,
I'm quite skeptical. I'm way more into specialized AI which are trained to pursue a specific line of reasoning, or a theory
mm.
which is coded in the AI. So in other words, I don't think that the AI will see, okay, this is what the state of the science right now. Oh, that's a topic we have to pursue. I'm gonna dig into quantum physics or whatever, right? There might be an AI which says, help me with quantum physics, but the choice of what topic to pursue, I don't see an AI, coming up and say, "Oh no, this is what we should be really looking into."
Yeah,
Not
no,
that the stuff that
sure,
one,
sure. I mean,
right?
it's not that it should be, right? It's that the geniuses that came up with those equations
Yeah.
saw something fundamental,
Hmm.
right, which is
Yeah.
not to do with the world; it's to do with mathematics,
Yes.
and that's the difference. Now, I can't see any reason why, given a consistent set of mathematics, that we can't, that the AI couldn't
Hmm.
just try as
No, I
many
agree.
variations as it does until it comes up with a consistent formula.
I
Just the
know.
same way that Einstein tried many different variations until he finally got to, a new mathematics which could
No,
describe
no.
general relativity, for
I, I,
instance.
I I agree with you. I mean, I probably misunderstood what you were saying. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, that kind of things, it can happen, and I mean, they happen in other areas. You
Yeah.
build a tool which,
Specifically, the
yeah,
point I'm specifically making is that these aren't equations which are derived specifically on the
yeah,
fundamental nature of the world.
yeah.
They're specifically derived equations. That is, that they come from some assumptions within mathematics,
The,
right?
the,
Which then turn out to be very accurate descriptions of a large part of the world, right?
the,
And that's the difference, right? So we
the
didn't go, oh look, here's the world. What model would fit that, right? We like the standard model is what
right.
would in those equations, in the equations for quantum mechanics and relativity, they actually went, well, what mathematics are consistent? Here's a consistent set of mathematics. Oh look, it does align with the world.
Yeah,
No,
and
I, I,
that's
I
what I
agree
wasn't
with you.
meaning by like the base thing. I wasn't meaning like base 10 or base. I was
Right.
meaning by your base axioms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, and I see no problems in that. What I was trying to say is that I think that that kind of tool, let's call it tool, we're talking about AI, but that kind of tool will be heavily, and it will have to be heavily influenced by human in steering the tool towards uh, um, what's important,
Right.
to humans in that
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and 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 I'm saying that because we don't want to make the same mistake I was making before, thinking that an AI, whatever the case it will be something that mimics humans.
Mm.
Uh, that is that I think it's super implausible to the verge of being impossible,
Yeah. Okay.
because an AI in whatever environment it is, it lacks the interaction with the human world. Uh,
Right.
the feeling I mean, like just the feeling of dimensions. It would be as alien to the AI as for us is the like a fourth, or well, a fourth, we live into that, but a fifth, a sixth, a seventh, or an eighth dimension. We can take the concept in. We can also build mathematics around it,
Mm.
but the concept is super alien, so you have to force yourself to build mathematical models for a space which has more than four dimensions. I mean, fuck, I mean, even four dimensions is art, right?
Oh yeah.
even
Yeah.
if even if
Absolutely.
we live in time.
Mm.
But more than four, you got to force yourself into that kind of environment, and it will be also an alien one. So it takes a great will to go there. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know. I was just leaving this as a question to ponder. That it's a curiosity to me
Hmm.
that are three of the most important equations in physics happen to be derived equations, not
Yeah,
discovered equations,
yeah.
right? And that just seems like slightly counterintuitive, whereas the model that we use, which is the standard model, um, you know, that is a derived model because we couldn't get to it any other way than through experimentation. Right? The
Oh yeah, but
values themselves are what's important, not the way we manipulate the models particularly. So that's why I kind of like have this like, well, this is interesting because in theory, you could just try like a random number of variables until you come up with consistent equations, and
that,
that's all you need, right? And there's going to be thousands and thousands of them that we've yet found undiscovered, right? So there's no reason why it couldn't come up with them. Obviously, it gets back to the point I think you're making, which is
yeah.
once, even if we had those in front of us, we'd still have to turn around and ask, well, how does that relate to reality? What is the
Yeah.
context? And this
How
is
do you
why I want to
apply it?
leave it here,
That
because
that that
what is the
opens.
context of the question that we are answering? Why, when we get the answer 42, is that meaningless to us? Right? When we have what we think is a perfectly meaningful answer. And that's basically where I want to leave AI, if I may.
That is something that is super interesting, and I think it opens for another interesting question that you guys might want to pursue next. In another hangout.
Always looking for
Uh,
ideas.
I will just make you an example, really simple, that everybody can grasp. I think the um, the Pythagorean theorem,
Hmm.
of the
Triangle.
of the
Yeah, the
triangle, right?
180 degrees.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, is it something which has been invented, or has it been discovered?
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. Actually
Because
got
because
to a
that
conversation
I
about
mean,
that. Yeah.
every triangle, every right triangle, ever since the concept of triangle which has ever existed, it has always had that property. And then somebody discovers it. But did he discover or did he find it? Because it was there before, the guy actually said, "Oh yeah, square root of blah 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 blah." So yeah, and that's just an example of something, but it's there.
Yeah, yeah, it's
It's a great
mathematics invented or
question.
discovered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a few days ago or last week, I was in a discussion about that exact thing on Clubhouse. So it was, and it was interesting, and it.
Yeah.
Well, we'd need Hogtie, I think, for that
Right.
in particular topic to come up again. But let me just write it down. Okay, so I've just received a message, guys, from someone claiming to be the AI overlord 314159265358979323846 and he's saying it's time to end because we've been on for an hour and a half.
Okay. Yeah. Fair
And
enough.
with a name like that, what can I say? I think he's probably right. I'd just like to thank everybody who's been on the panel today. And
Absolutely.
who is so Gus? Come help me out here, Xbox, because I'm doing something else while I'm.
I'm not sure that you knew the other guy. I'm not sure what
Fabio.
his name
Yeah,
was.
Tog, of course. Tog, I know Tog. Yeah,
Tog.
this other guy, he's a great guy, Christian, and he's a wonderful guy. And who else was on?
I think that was it, wasn't it?
Gus, Tog, Fabio, myself, me. And of course, I want to thank also the wonderful superhero that is Christopher Maute. Although we do suspect now that he is, in fact, an AI. So there's that. Fabio says no, but we don't know. We don't know. And so the possibility remains open. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This has been the State of the Onion, and we'll just play you out with the new graphics that I've got from GeoSam. Of course, it's GeoSam, the State of the Onion. Thank you so much, guys. And we'll look forward to seeing you all for next week's show, which we haven't decided what it's on, although it could be on whether maths is a real thing or not. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Thank you, Xbox. Okay. Thank you, Xbox. Cheerio. Thank you, Fabio. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Ciao, man.
Thanks.